Before we begin this episode, I have a request. 98% of you have not bloody subscribed to this channel. Please subscribe. Everyone watches, nobody subscribes. So please subscribe before I even begin this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. It really helps us. Now, I will get back to introducing myself. Hello, welcome back to a brand new episode of Two Please. I'm Abin, your host.
And I'm your co-host Rohit. Subscribers also get free feed pics from me, whether they want it or not. Oh wait, this is not OnlyFans. Sorry. Let's move
Coming soon. Two Please.
on.
Don't demonetize our videos. I mean, not that they're monetized to begin with, but please don't demonetize. But yes, speaking of the many perils of capitalism, of course, OnlyFans being a shining example of the very same, we have an interesting film to talk about today.
Yeah. The first rule of Two Please is that you don't talk about Two Please. The film we're going to talk about today is 1999's Fight Club. And before we dive into all of the things that we want to talk about, let's start the show.
I have a story to share about this movie. I watched this movie for the first time some 2 weeks ago.
What are you saying?
What? I'm not kidding. And this is a film that has remained famously unwatched on my list for the longest time. This movie has come up in prior episodes. I think it's on the famous plot twist episode where we do mention the big reveal at the end of the film. Now, why I have not watched this film is a very interesting reason behind it. So I remember one of my earliest memories is my father watching this movie back in 2000 on a laser disc. Now, for those of you of the class of Gen Z, a laser disc was the video disc that preceded the VCD and the DVD. It was the size of like a vinyl record, slightly bigger, and also came with this huge ass player. And I remember my
Explain
dad
to
watching.
them what a DVD is.
Oh, I'm sure they know what a DVD is. They must have like rummaged through their parents' DVD collection or something. Yeah, I remember him watching it back then, and then many years had passed where I didn't really bother going back to it, and then I really got into quizzing by 2006 2007, and every so-called movie entertainment quiz you went for all had one stupid question about Fight Club. I saw the movie through quiz questions before I actually had the chance to sit down and watch it to completion in one full sitting. Like, I always saw clips of it. I always knew who Tyler Durden was. I knew who the narrator was. I knew Meatloaf was in there for a random reason, God knows why. And David Fincher was was a director. I was really intrigued by his body of work. I'm a big fan of Seven. We have a category called 6 Degrees of Gone Girl. I mean, go figure. So this somehow, like, I've seen Panic Room and I've seen The Game, but I have not watched this, which is kind of insane for people. I've seen Alien Resurrection, which is a movie nobody knows that David Fincher directed, but I've watched that and I have not seen Fight Club.
How do I talk about my relationship with Fight Club? I have watched it long back. I haven't watched it recently. But similar to what you were saying, right? Even before I watched the movie, I was familiar with a lot of it because of quizzing. Movies like, Fight Club, Pulp Fiction, just so much of it came into quizzes even before we watched it. We probably knew the big plot points. At the time I watched it, I guess because when you're younger, you're edgier. You probably feel like the world owes you a little more than you feel as you grow older.
Your rebellious phase, right?
Yeah, and before you're browbeaten by the banality of life, I probably not empathize. I probably vibed with the movie a little more. I guess I thought it was a cool movie, or it was trying to be something different, and it was trying to put out a message that not so much made sense, but it was exciting, right? The message of the movie was exciting. As I've grown older and as I've especially for this episode, I didn't rewatch it, but I was going over my thoughts, considering just reconsidering the movie, right? on one hand, I am more used to the comforts that have now come with growing up, and now you have more money. In college, you were broke all the time and stuff. So you have a greater appreciation for the life that the narrator is deriding throughout the film. Just to a random case in point, when he talks about a house full of IKEA furniture is so shit, I'm like, bro, my half my living room is IKEA, and I like it. So on one hand, getting used to the comforts, and on the other hand, especially living in a developing economy where your aspirations are always a little out of just a little out of your reach, right? uh, to hear white people talk about how their life is boring and they want some excitement, I'm like, you want excitement, fucking come to Dadar and board a local train, bro. I'll give you all the excitement you want. There are fight clubs happening every day on like Bombay trains. Or come try and catch an auto in Bangalore during the rains. You'll have
I
all the film of
Yeah,
excitement you want.
yeah. So the really funny thing about that is I don't even think like we need to make that much of a stretch with regards to like experiencing different walks of life. So I mean, a quick summary of the film before we get into this episode, right, and get into my thoughts
Yeah,
about it. There is a narrator who suffers from insomnia. He goes to a bunch of support groups across the city to keep himself occupied. And in that support group, he runs into Helena Bonham Carter's character called Marla, and they develop this weird love-hate relationship. Somewhere along the line, on a flight back, or I think on a flight back, the
yeah.
narrator runs into this dude, soap salesman called Tyler Durden, with whom he ends up starting a fight club with, and it fully changes his perspective on the world. Tyler has this nihilistic bad boy vibe to him. He's a soap salesman who basically takes liposuction fat and turns it into soaps and sells it like to stores and stuff. And things slowly like escalate from there as the fight club starts to get bigger and bigger. And that, in a sense, is a story, right? So I watched the movie, and okay, by now this movie has like one big reveal that was somehow seemed to be quite in step with Edward Norton in the 90s. He had this, and he had I think Primal Fear was the other one.
Primal Fear. Primal Fear.
Yeah. So so there's, I mean, guys, if you have not seen Fight Club, I mean, the probability that you've seen Fight Club is a lot higher than me watching Fight Club. Tyler Durden and the narrator are the same people.
Really?
Yeah, so basically that. Look at what for shock my ass. Anyway, so he's essentially the same guy, but it's the worst parts of him that take shape in entire Turtle, right? So I remember watching this movie, and the first thing I could think of, the first thought that crossed my mind was, this movie is extremely hypocritical, and I can't tell if that's like a that was a valid choice, or it was something that fully bypassed the director's head. It movie hates capitalism so much, and in the end, what eventually does end up happening is it fully conforms to the laws of capitalism, right? The whole first rule of Fight Club: you don't talk about Fight Club. Suddenly, there are fight clubs across the entire country. There's a movement in place. It becomes so commoditized towards the end of the film. I'm just like, are we not seeing, is this deliberate? If it's deliberate, props to you for like making this satirical, but I don't know, this film keeps taking itself too seriously for me to like come to that, to be absolutely sure about it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, right? Again, I'm going to withhold my thoughts on these for the themes
Hmm.
section of the podcast, but yeah, I'm just going to withhold my thoughts. I have a lot to say, not just about capitalism at large, or nihilism, or you know the hypocrisy of this film. I completely agree with you, right? Not so much hypocrisy, the try hardness. It's a very try hard film.
That's the film. That's the, yeah,
That's
that's what I'm looking for. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the film. Honestly, the reason I think I was okay discussing this movie is because whether I like it or not, it's undeniable that it has had an impact and a legacy, for better and mostly for worse. And therefore it is relevant, it is important, is probably the reason I was like, okay, let's discuss. And it gives me a chance to look at something a little critically, because otherwise movies we discuss are the ones we love, and it's very easy to be effusive, right? uh,
Yeah.
at least for me, it's a little harder to sit down and criticize something and try and justify my criticism. So that's the exercise I'm looking forward to today. But like I said, I'll withhold my thoughts for the theme section. Before that, any BTS stories, Abhin? Anything you want to share with our listeners?
So apparently, so a couple of things. There's a Starbucks cup in nearly every frame of this film or every scene in this movie.
It's like an Easter egg. It's there in every scene.
Mhm. Yeah,
I remember
that is
reading this in some cracked article when my balls were dropping. It's that old.
cracked articles. I think you're really like aging yourself that way. Is cracked still
Yeah,
around? I mean,
yeah.
what I that was like a source for so much of our trivia, especially when we were setting up quizzes in
It
the
is.
early
It
2000s.
is. Yes.
Mm.
Cracked is still there, but I think last I checked again with a lot of other websites, I think a lot of Cracked is also now feed pics and stuff. So
Oh.
I'm just kidding. It's not feed pics. It's really bad, really badly written articles.
Besides that, I think Edward Norton really punches Tyler Brad Pitt outside the bar. That was supposed to happen. The soap bars were real. Some of them actually did contain some liquidated fat that came off humans. The cigarette burn effect, which I think was my favorite part of this movie. I love this. I love the fact that they stopped the film to explain film trivia to you, where like there's a cigarette burn effect, and then Brad Pitt points to the camera. Again, one more quiz question. This has come up in quizzes before. And even I think there's even in the early aspects of the film, there is. I think David Fincher has apparently stitched a single frame of Tyler Durden into the early parts of the film's reels to to kind of give the audience that
Incept the idea.
yeah, incept the idea, and they kind of allude to it also in the film because Tyler does work as a real projectionist in certain points, and he kind of injects a single piece of porn into like other films, which makes
Yeah.
people like
That scene is hilarious. Yeah, yeah. I think the larger point on the cigarette burn, I know I remember seeing one of these YouTube videos on Fincher. The thing I like about him is he uses CGI for the most like smallest and mundane of reasons, right? He has random peculiarities or insistences that for which he'll use CGI. Like the smoke of the cigarette has to, it has to flow in a certain way, and he has to CGI it. I'm like, bro, who gives a fuck? People are talking like you've written some nice dialogue. Nobody's looking at how the cigarette smoke is going up. But yeah, I think Fincher is a perfectionist to the point of being a pain, is what I've read and heard. But I mean, the output that he gives is phenomenal. So, and speaking of spectacular output, I think that's as good a segue into the memorable moments of the film, of which there are so many. But I'll
Mhm.
let you go first. Which were the scenes since you've watched it more recently?
The first one that comes to mind is that whole hand burn thing that they do. Oh, it's what? It's sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is what starts causing the burn, and then he adds acid vinegar to like neutralize it. And I remember watching it in the moment and being like, "This movie is getting. This is probably the most uh, brutal Fincher film, if you were to ask me. I think it purely from a visual perspective. I think no other Fincher film is as bloody and as brutal as probably seven.
What are
Seven to
you
seven.
saying? Yeah,
But seven
there
isn't
is a
brutal.
guy
Seven is like
raping a prostitute with a spiked dildo,
it's never
forced to
shown. It's never shown. Like it's alluded to, and the guy obviously is like they
the
walk
sloth
in,
guy.
and the sloth guy is messed up. It is definitely messed up. But in
Seven is
terms of
fucked.
the seven is a great movie. I fucking love seven. Mm. I
Yeah,
always for some reason thought seven came after Fight Club. I didn't realize Brad Pitt was already like such a huge household name by the time Fight Club came around.
yeah. But anyway, coming back to your scene, no, it is a
Hmm.
visceral scene. I
Hmm.
remember,
Hmm.
and it has an impact. I don't disagree,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
seven comparisons apart, but I don't deny your point. Sorry to have cut you
Hmm.
short because when you said it's the most brutal, like no. But yeah,
No, that's
that's
fine.
fun. That's fun.
Hmm. Hmm.
What else? What else did you walk
Uh,
away with?
I think the whole IKEA furniture. Like you speak about CGI, right? Him having random factoids about IKEA furniture popping up in that scene prior
Oh yeah.
to the house exploding. I was like, Fincher, dude, your obsession with CGI has long since preceded even the tech in in my opinion. The whole meatloaf's extra boobs thing. I went and read up. I had to go look it up. It's like one of those uh boogie night situations. That wasn't actually real. No, he was wearing a prosthetic.
Oh, he was. I would have totally. Somebody had told me, yeah, that's his. I was like, yeah, cool. Looks like. Look at him.
No, no, no. Poor Meatloaf didn't do wonders for his reputation in the 90s. I mean, obviously the climax, the big reveal that they're one and the same, and all the buildings coming tumbling down to the theme of "Where Is My Mind."
I think he
Hmm.
says something like you've met me at a very strange time in my life or something.
Yes.
That's the line.
Hmm.
The last line of the film. Yeah.
Hmm.
The the memory I go back to most, the one I cherish, the one that gives me, puts a smile on my face just before I go to sleep a lot of nights, is just remembering Jared Leto get beaten to a fucking pulp. And
I
every
knew.
time I come
I
across any
forgot.
articles of him, I come across any articles of him without fail being a douchebag. I'm like, yeah, that happened to him. Even if it's not real, I choose to believe it is. And that's what gives me peace. It lets me sleep at night. I wake up fresh, happy. I'm like, yes, Jared Leto got beaten in Fight Club.
He
At least
comes
that
out in
happened.
this movie. He pops out like a jump scare. You're like, holy shit, Jared Leto. What? Like,
Yeah.
I thought Jared Leto was like played it fairly straight in the 90s, but no, blonde eyebrows, blonde hair, very much the start of current day Jared Leto as we know
Fuck him. That's all I
him.
have to say. So, so there's
What
that.
else do you have?
Uh, the other one, probably my favorite line from the film, where Marla is like, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school. Which a BTS tidbit I have behind that is the original line was, I haven't been fucked like that since high school.
Mm.
And the whatever, the producers told Fincher, hey, this line cannot go, you have to change it. And he's like, you're telling me I have to change it, right? And he's like, reading between the lines, he didn't say I can't
Mm.
make it worse. So he changed high school to grade school. I remember first time watching it, and I obviously had down torrented it. I paused. I'm like, what did she just say? What is happening? And even the part where Brad Pitt opens the door to Edward Norton, and there's Marla on the bed behind him, and Brad Pitt is wearing rubber gloves and some face mask. And I'm like, what shenanigans?
Yeah,
What is
there is
happening,
like
right?
there is a random sex scene that happens in this movie where it's like I don't know what's happening. It feels like a fever dream sex scene where it keeps like the camera keeps rotating and it's out and it's pulled back and and the
Yeah,
aperture
it's
size
very
is
Gaspar
Hmm.
Noé.
No, Gaspar
It's
Noé
very
is
Gaspar.
I don't know if I wouldn't call it Gaspar Noé. It's Fincher. It's Fincher being
No, the
like
camera work. The
yeah,
camera
yeah.
work, I'm saying. Gaspano is a lot
Hmm.
more explicit, I know.
Hmm.
But all that, twirling and you're like,
I
what's
know what you mean.
happening?
Your Irreversible's opening 10 minutes is what you're
Yeah.
referring to. Hmm.
But
See, so this is why we do this
there's
podcast
that.
together.
There's that. And then obviously the ending. Uh, and the mission right at the end, right? Of them, again, not so much a spoiler, but what they want to do is they want to destroy a building which has the loan records of a lot of folks, and they want to wipe off their debts against the bank, which fundamentally is a cause I can get behind, right? And I remember when Mr. Robot, the first season, came out, I was like, hey, essentially the same funda as Fight Club,
Hmm.
same anti-capitalist measure that they're trying to take. So I remember that, and of course, a lot of quotable lines. Many of Brad Pitt's long tirades against consumerism, against advertisements, against capitalism, and of course espousing nihilism, espousing anarchism. Again, they're long lines. I'm not going to quote them verbatim, but they've become famous. Again, unfortunately, today they're quoted by people who tend to be assholes.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. Um, and of course, the whole first rule about Fight Club, and which I sort of referenced right at the start. So a lot of quotable lines, a lot of memorable visuals. It's just I watched it so long ago, I can't recite it from
Hmm.
memory, but the movie has a lot of staying power with you. Again, for better and for worse, it has a lot of staying power with you.
Yeah, I mean that's this film didn't. I mean, famously didn't do well upon release, but has it's possibly one of the biggest cult movies of all time. I
I
think
think it's
is
because of the internet that this movie became a cult classic. Because not just early days of the internet, even today, the sort of crowd, the sort of people who are heavily
Themes.
on the
Wait,
internet.
it'll come for come. It's a themes
Yeah.
thing. Believe you, that's
Outside of
something I've thought
social
of.
media, they are the kind of people who propped this movie up and made it their whatever,
I
messiah
felt
story.
like, yeah, I think this is a good point
Let's
for
yeah,
us to,
let's
yeah,
slide
to
into
dive into
themes.
themes, because there was a point in this, like when this movie was really cool, like I say 2009 to 2012, Fight Club was
Yeah.
revered, and as merchandise around Fight Club started to come out, which is fucking hilarious. It's like, the movie The Critics Capitalism is generating t-shirts with Tyler Durden's face on it. But like, and not just like a normal thing, like these are big corporations that are like creating these shirts, right? Very much like how people miss the point of Squid Game. I remember when Squid Game first came out, it was very much a sharp critique on the pitfalls of capitalism. And within about 2 weeks, Mr. Beast announced that he was doing his own version of the Squid Game games, which now has more views than the actual show itself. Right? So it's, take that, make of that what you will, right? Uh, so this movie kind of started, like, it became a movement for a bunch of people that felt discarded, not heard, like the voiceless, so to speak. But over the last 10 years, it has found its, like, it's called its home, or rather it has influenced a generation of incels, as well as a lot of Trumpisms, if I may. Like, I was watching the movie, and the first thing I thought of was Donald Trump. Like, I was like, a lot of what he says, oh, this system doesn't care about you, like Trump and Andrew Tate, they're just espousing the same rhetoric that Brad Pitt does in Fight Club.
Yeah.
And it's the same: you're disenfranchised, no one's going to look after you, you got to beat the system. As a matter of fact, he said something similar when the Capitol riots were happened back in 2021, Jan 6
Yeah.
2021. He said something, I'll put up exactly what he said, very in line with and very in step with, in from the Tyler school of thought. That's what, for me, that's what, like, I personally felt that the movie has not aged well with regards to that aspect, given the kind of people and the kind of rhetoric it has spawned over the last decade or so.
I don't know how to put this right, because this is still a theory or a concept that I've been developing in my mind for the last couple of weeks or longer, but I haven't really like put it down anywhere. It's just random thoughts in my head, which are around essentially the power of capitalism to co-opt anything that comes up as an opposition to it, right?
Hmm.
And think of it this way: the inexorable or the inevitable direction of capitalism is increasing inequality, consolidation
Hmm.
of resources by those who already have power, and the continued disenfranchisement of the disenfranchised. That
Hmm.
deviation is only going to increase. That's
Yeah.
essentially the momentum of capitalism, right? Every now and then you have some corrective actions you have, because it's like when pressure reaches a boiling point, you need some sort of release. So every now and then some corrective actions happen. And imagine capitalism being this sort of beast which learns from that event happening. And it's like, oh, I shouldn't have pushed this too far. Now I've learned what happens if I push it. I am going to either work around it or I'm going to co-opt it, right? Let's, like, for example, take the French Revolution, one of the most famous, pressure
Hmm.
release situations where
Yeah.
the aristocracy consolidated far too much power. Too many people were disenfranchised, and they rose up. There was a supposed reorganization of the social order, and yet after that you had Napoleon. After that you had a Napoleon the Third. You had quasi monarchs, or at least on paper you had the monarchy. Sure, they
Hmm.
didn't have as much power, but they still had wealth, right? And I remember discussing this about a few episodes back, even when we went to Rajasthan and stuff. Sure, they're not
Hmm.
active now, but they still have wealth. And today, the powers that be are smart enough to not incite the same sort of sentiments, right? Another example would be the rise of socialism or communism, starting with Russia. In the most black and white terms, socialism slash communism is theoretically the antithesis of capitalism, right? Instead of consolidating wealth, it says let's distribute wealth.
Hmm.
Sure, sounds great in theory, and that fervor of seeing that philosophy play out in reality is what led to the Russian Revolution. Things got set up, but then you see in the subsequent decades, corruption set in. Uh, there was a lot of people, power games happening under the guise of communism. The rich still continued to enrich themselves, say in the Russian
Hmm.
Politburo or people who had, people of influence. That is because maybe capitalism is fundamentally ingrained, or the way, because we came from a hunter gatherer uh,
Is it like a an
ancestry.
absolute power corrupts situation? Because it seems to be the case across all forms um
I
of
see. I
societies,
mean,
right? Hmm.
correct. I think to say that and to ascribe it to just saying absolute power corrupts absolutely is not wrong, but
Hmm.
it feels a little short-handed, right? It's saying you're just waving it away. If To me at least, because, and you know this, I love
Hmm.
anthropology. I like to take everything back to anthropology because I feel there are certain things which successive generations going through similar experiences gets imprinted on you, on your instinct or whatever, right? And which is what I was saying, as hunter gatherer societies where food was scarce and you can't afford to be generous beyond a point. You're like, yeah, sure, we'll share, but fuck you. At the end of the day, I'm not going to like stay hungry for the larger good, right? People tend to look out for themselves, and that sort of self-preservation expressed in the extreme is the capitalism we see today. Because at
Hmm.
this stage, say Bill Gates is not, or Elon Musk is not struggling for self-preservation, right? It's that sentiment that has been expressed in the grotesque now. They're like, you don't need 200 billion. Nobody needs to be a billionaire, right? But
Hmm.
a runaway sentiment has what led us to this space. Anyway, coming back to communism,
Hmm.
it essentially said, hey, let's distribute wealth. But eventually, under that, same corruption happened, same wealth
Hmm.
accumulation happened, because that's inherent to us. People want to accumulate. It's imprinted into us over thousands of years.
Hmm.
Take internet again, coming closer to, in terms of relevance and timeline, to Fight Club, the rise of the internet. If you recall, around that time, if you even go back and see publications way back in time, when the internet was up and coming, people were like, this is going to be a social disruptor, because
Hmm.
now communication channels are not controlled by media conglomerates. Internet is going to democratize communication. People can say whatever they want. It's anonymous. People don't have to hide. Repressed people can now get a voice. All of that has gone to shit in the last 20-25 years. Our richest people in the world today are all tech billionaires.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, you need to appreciate it, right? You might hate it, but you need to appreciate capitalism's ability to co-opt anything that threatens to disrupt its inexorable flow towards consolidation. And
Hmm.
it's terrible, but it's super cool too. Which is why right
It's
at the start, when I said, when I'm comfortable than I was when I was younger, at an individual level, don't foresee myself being able to stem the tide of this consolidation, right? Sure, in my own circle, I'm going to try and not be an asshole. I'm going to try
hmm.
and be just and spread the wealth around if I ever have any, right?
Yes.
Within reason, of course.
Hmm.
But given that, I'm like, I understand too much capitalism is bad, but whatever, like, edgy bullshit that this movie is trying to serve me, saying like, believe in nothing, nihilism, or anarchy, no rule of law is probably better than what we have. No, it's not, guys. The whole reason why 17th and like Jean-Jacques Rousseau in like 1600s or whatever 1700s said, came up with the concept of the social contract, which essentially is the implicit agreement between members of a society that let us not be dicks to each other. Yes, it is important to pursue our ambitions and our needs and wants within reason. But anarchy essentially says there is no social contract. 8 billion people cannot live together in that sort of system.
Yeah.
It is going to be, you have to have. some sort of said unsaid law governing the way we are our interactions with each other, right? Which is why now as I grow up, I'm like, this is so like stupid and myopic and like impractical, the message of the movie.
Even then, like, you talk about anarchism being like chaos, basically chaos, distilled forms of chaos. The film itself co-ops kind of provides guardrails to it. If you want, don't look no further than the rules of the Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. What is the second rule? If it's your first day, you've got to fight, so on. And I mean, there are
Yeah, yeah.
guardrails. There are certain things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to observe. You're not supposed to attack. So it's not. It's for anarchism. It's just it's a
Yeah, that's their own
scenario where,
social contract they've come up with, right? So what the fuck?
yes, yeah. Which is what
Yeah.
I find the whole conversation about the matrix, and you're living outside in the matrix and everything is being controlled, and so you need to step out of the matrix and be controlled by a whole separate other matrix that's not the current matrix that's keeping you down. Let this matrix keep you down. It's, oh man, it's the same old um garbage that gets repeated every other decade or so.
Yeah, and like you rightly said, right, between 2009 to 12 was probably when this movie sort of culturally speaking found its
Was it a high
legs the
point?
most, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah, was it cultural high point? Is also because think of it this way, right? That was also around the time people were again disenfranchised because of the financial crisis of 2008.
Hmm.
People were disgruntled with capitalism. Occupy Wall Street started in 2012, or I was at its zenith in 2012. So between 2008 to 2012, there was an uptick in anti-capitalist sentiment, right? The capitalist system saw this and they're like, okay, what do we do? And then Facebook boomed. Then you had Snapchat. Social media basically came in and they're like, here's your new opium. What was religion
Hmm.
100 years ago is today fucking reels and your TikToks and all this nonsense. And people are just like anesthetized by it. Nobody's stopping to think about, hey, what am I doing with my time? Hey, where is society going? We're all collectively looking down at our phones. Again, capitalism came in and like, okay, let's distract them with this. Not only distract them, we'll use that to fucking sell them more stuff. It
Yes.
is, when you look at the larger this thing, you can either choose to feel hopeless or be like, hey, just join the club, make your money, and try to be good to people around you. But this system ain't changing, guys. Nobody is changing this system. Let's get it in our heads.
Far from it, guys. We're making money off of feed pics. Like, there was this wonderful stat. So, and I said this to somebody recently. So there's this guy called Caleb Hammer who does financial audits, and he built a whole YouTube series around it. And I think he had this Twitch streamer called Amaranth on her on his platform. And generally he gets people who have terrible, like, financial history. So he got somebody. This is probably the first time he bought somebody on that was making bank, right? Like Amaranth made. She's a Twitch streamer, basically streams in extremely skimpy clothes or in bikinis, does hot tub streams, and has a diverse, like, pool of revenue coming in through her various channels, right? So in 1 month alone, I think when she first launched her OnlyFans, it was 27 million is what she made in the first month. So, and year on year, she has continued to make, month on month, she makes about 7 million through most of her channels, which is ridiculous, which is, in my opinion. But again, people say, oh, how can, like, why are people watching? I'm like, no, if you're not paying attention to who's exactly consuming her content. There are people extremely aware of the fact that, okay, there's there is a whole team of individuals working behind this person's brand, and they are essentially the people communicating to you, but you want to live under the false, you want to live under that fallacy that, oh, I'm actually having a conversation with this person in exchange for some sort of monetary compensation, uh, and they're fine with it. And that's where, and if you look at, and if large media giants are able to look at these patterns and be like, people are idiots, they will pay for anything, like, why would they do the so-called right thing?
I guess. I mean, and while you were talking, I just felt like in a different context, you are sort of echoing the message of this movie, right? Which is rampant consumerism is bad for the human condition, so to
Hmm.
speak. And in fact, this is where I don't know if Tyler Durden directly or indirectly references in Nietzsche's Ubermensch concept, which For those of you who may not know, Nietzsche was this 19th century German philosopher, talked about how the next stage of human evolution was in the form of this Ubermensch or Superman, the literal translation of it. And he does mention, right, which like the for us to be able to attain that next stage of evolution is to have to break through this veneer of consumerism and expose ourselves to difficult situations, to pain, because this whole consumerist mindset has sort of lulled us and sort of
Hmm.
yeah, anesthetized us is probably the best way to put it, right? I say let people be, man. If people want to, I mean, it's free will, right? If I'm taking this argument to its logical extreme. If somebody within their right mind is choosing, and I'm not talking about addiction here, because addiction is not always in your control, but if somebody is choosing to do something which you feel is not right for them, who's to tell? As long as your actions aren't hurting anybody else. Those
Hmm.
streamers are paying that girl whatever, I mean, that those subscribers are paying that streamer
Hmm.
whatever money. It's their
Hmm.
money, they've earned it. Unless they're taking it out of their kids college fund or whatever, and so nobody else is being damaged by it. Sure, you and I may not agree with it, right?
Yeah, I know.
The problem, a fundamental problem I have with this movie is it has a value judgment on people's free will. Fuck it
Hmm.
for that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, no, that makes that makes complete sense. It's like, oh, it's the edgy teenage kid standing in the corner, like judging people for liking popular things. That's what this movie
Exactly.
felt like to me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm. It's like,
You're
oh,
like,
you
oh,
like,
so uncool that you like this. You should
yeah,
only
so
be this
uncool.
way. That's it.
Yeah, it should be like a
I'm like, you have
false.
no friends, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
Live and let live, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think we've covered. Did we cover the themes of? I mean, we kind of like glossed over nihilism to a certain degree. Anything else that we've missed?
Nihilism, consumerism,
Hmm.
capitalism, Nietzsche, incel culture also you sort of did with the whole
Yeah,
internet
incel
bit.
culture definitely. Yeah, people disenfranchised, out of the opinion that, oh, the world is against you. This is your. That's the whole reason why women don't love you, and basically a lot of anti-feminist rhetoric that you're hearing today. Kind of, you could trace back to this film.
Correct. And which is why I made that distinction, right? The way
Hmm.
you choose to live your life, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, cool, right? If somebody is an incel, being an incel inherently is not bad. I mean, I am sad for that person because they're not choosing it to be, but whatever, that's their situation. As long as they're not spewing bad rhetoric, as long as they're not harassing women, as long as they're not, shooting folks or whatever the hell they're doing in the US, uh, as long as it's contained within somebody's, jacking themselves off to oblivion and going to sleep every night, I don't care what they do. As long as they clean up afterwards, right? We don't want to like create some new strains of bacteria or fungus, whatever, because
You
they
would be
don't clean up
very
after
surprised.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would be very surprised as to just how filthy human beings can be.
Yeah. So, like I
Hmm.
said, as long as their actions don't hurt anyone, unfortunately, the disenfranchised today are lashing out in ways which negatively impact others, which is the
Yes.
problem. The negative impact on others is the problem. You feel bad, sure. If you want to do something about it, that is within your control, go for it. You don't want to do something about it, it's your call. I'm not going to judge you for being the way you are.
Yeah. Fair enough. My whole forget about even being smart. I was like, you are very much a film that was of its time. I would a little ahead of its time, but not too ahead of its time. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There
That's
is a very
that was
specific
my
expiry date on the message of this
this
film.
exactly, yeah. Best before so and so months.
But yeah, those are the themes broadly we want to discuss. Coming
Hmm.
to what has now become my favorite section of every episode. It's like a
Hmm.
good puzzle slash quiz to try and solve. And let's try and make it harder, or rather, let's get the easy one out of the way. Okay, before we get guys, we're talking about 6 degrees of Gone Girl, and in fact, hey, where is the 6th degree here? Or David Fincher
There is no
over.
6 degrees. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's why I said. before this episode, I came with a suggestion saying, let's do 6 Degrees of Gone Girl, connecting it to Fight Club, but the 2006 Bollywood film starring Zayed Khan, Ashish Chaudhary, Ritesh Deshmukh, and Sunil Shetty, where they took the concept of the Fight Club and said, fuck everything else, because our audiences aren't prime for this shit.
No, they're like Indians are
Similar.
already nihilistic. You don't have to like preach it to them.
ये nihilism क्या है? Anyway, yes. So let's do that. But yes, okay. How do you do this, man?
One eternity later.
I've got it. So the first one is, of course, Fight Club. Ritesh Deshmukh in Fight Club. 2009's Aladdin, starring Ritesh Deshmukh and Amitabh Bachchan.
Mm-hmm.
Amitabh Bachchan in The Great Gatsby.
Oh, that's the bridge. I was wondering who's the bridge. Nice.
Yeah, Amitabh Bachchan in The Great Gatsby. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hey, fuck. I refuse.
Matt Damon.
Even in this, it is impossible. One does not simply walk around Matt Damon.
I think the connector here in this case has to be, oh, dude, what I should have actually said, I am the idiot. It should have been Fight Club as Sunil Shetty in it, no?
Yeah.
So Fight Club, Kante would have been the better bridge.
Then Aladdin, yeah.
Yeah. Also.
Yeah, there, Kante. Basically, the genius is in Amitabh and Great Gatsby. That's the
yes.
Good spot. Good recall.
Do you have any?
No, dude. How do I follow this up? Are you mad? This was awesome. I'm just in awe. As I'm silent.
I'm sure there is one. I'm sure you can do the Irfan Khan route also.
One eternity later.
This is not making for good podcasting.
No. Yeah. Anyway,
idle speculation.
So yeah, there's a random bit here where Rohit and I he just observed me like trying to put things together, wasting everyone's time, including ours. So we have decided to cut it in the interest of time. But yeah, anything more to add about this film as we like wrap this episode up?
Word of caution, maybe. Watch the movie because, like we said, for better or worse, it is a cultural milestone. Maybe not as relevant today as 10 years ago, but still definitely worth a watch. Memorable moments, memorable dialogues. Just don't get swayed by what the movie is trying to sell. Tyler Durden is essentially, or maybe that is also a meta commentary. He's a soap salesman selling you what is essentially shit. So maybe if Fincher's trying to say, hey, I'm trying to sell you shit, don't take it at face value. Just struck me. Maybe. So if that's the case, listen to Fincher, enjoy the film and forget about it. But anyway, that's us this week.
Chalo. Okay. See you next week or the week after. Take care.
Bye-bye.